Two strange worlds are opening up to all of us today. One is the world beneath the sea. The other is the alien world of outer space. Strange as it may seem, there are many things that both these worlds have in common. There are problems of adjustment to unusual sensations, such as weightlessness or the release from the force of gravity in both elements. That's why I was called in on one of the space projects and commissioned to experiment underwater with 4 top candidates for space travel. I was to train them to function in isolation while breathing compressed air and to teach them how to deal with the unexpected. The 4 young pilots checked out well in our offshore experiments. Dr. Adams, a specialist in space medicine, and I agreed that they were ready for the big test.
The point is to think before you act, especially when you're in a strange environment. That's what you fellas are training for, a strange environment. All right, Doc, let's open up those orders for Phase 3 of Operation Moondive, huh? Hold this chart for me, huh? All right. The Research Institute has set up a supply dump. It's located in the bottom of the ocean in 60 feet of water. See enclosed chart. There it is. Now, that supply dump is about 30 miles... Yeah, about 30 miles in from the sea, from the coast there. You'll do mental and physical exercises down there for a solid 6-hour stretch. Oh, boy, 6 hours. You'll also eat down there. And you will exchange your partially filled air tanks for fresh ones at regular intervals. One of you will remain above on the boat as a safety man. And he'll get regular weather reports on the radio. That's very important because we'll be in the area where most of the hurricanes start. This is the season for them, too. Good luck to you, San John Martin. Well, looks like we got our work cut out for us, fellas.
Sounds rough.
Yeah. Especially that 6-hour stretch. You fellas knew what you were volunteering for. You knew it wasn't going to be easy.
We moved out to sea and dropped anchor 30 miles out. I went down to check on our underwater supply dump. There it was. Our underwater outpost, a storehouse of scientifically prepared and packaged food and medicine. Also, the usual underwater equipment like air tanks and flares, and many items never used underwater before.
How's it look down there?
They got everything. It'll be like checking into a first-class hotel. Only it'll be 60 feet down. You get the weather report yet?
Oh, no. Operation Moondive calling Weather Recon. Come in, Recon. Weather Recon, this is Operation Moondive. Come in, please. Mike, we've got troubles.
There's no filament voltage. Maybe it's a transformer.
Have we got a spare?
No. We're gonna have to fix it.
Might be just a loose connection.
I hope so. No weather report, no diving.
Well, look, I'm stuck here as safety man anyhow, and the rest of you guys are ready to dive. Well, I majored in electronics. Why don't you let me take a crack at it?
Okay. We'll go on down. You give yourself about an hour. If you can fix it then, get the weather report and come on down, huh?
An hour should be plenty.
Better be. I like being stuck in this area without a weather report.
We went down in military style. Discipline was part of the test. The men were just as surprised as I had been in the sight of an underwater depot. It seemed confusing, but every flask, every container had a specific and vital purpose. My first instructions were to give the men simple problems in algebra. The idea was to see how much the difficult breathing and strange environment would interfere with their concentration. Dr. Adams helped me to observe their reactions and score their performance. The next phase of our experiment was to learn how difficult it was to take adequate nourishment underwater to survive. We tried various methods. We discovered that the simplest action could be difficult at 60 feet. It was a problem to swallow the food capsules. The compressed air made our throats dry, even with all that water around us. We found the easiest method was to sip liquids from the plastic bottles. I kept looking up, hoping to see Ed. I thought that all of our problems were underwater, not knowing that 30 miles away and 20,000 feet up, a Hurricane Hunter plane was reporting the formation of a storm to its base.
Looks bad. Something's forming up out there. Send out small craft warnings.
Hurricane Hunter had flown into the eye of a storm that turned out to be of hurricane force.
We're heading into the storm area now, Commander. It's a big one. Looks like a hurricane heading due north at 15 knots. Over.
Over and out. Issue general warnings to all craft. That research outfit is directly in its path. Calling Operation Moondive. Calling Operation Moondive. Come in. This is urgent. Come in, Moondive. Come in, Moondive. Do you read me, Moondive? This is urgent. Come in, Moondive.
This is Moondive. Go ahead.
There is a hurricane approaching. Head for shelter at once. Over.
Roger. Radio was out. Others underwater. Must warn them. Over.
Make it fast. You're running out of time. Over and out.
The next phase of the test was playing games, but with a serious purpose. Still testing coordination. Suddenly, Ed appeared with the worst possible news on his slate. I signaled to the group to follow me to the surface. I swam ahead, up the anchor line. At 20 feet, I could feel the turbulence. When I saw the slack anchor line coming down, I knew that the winds had torn our boat loose. Unless we could find it, we were at the mercy of the storm. I tried to reach the surface to look for the boat. The turbulence hit me like a sledgehammer. I had the fight of my life to get out of it and go back down. The underwater survival test was no longer just an experiment. Using the Morse code, I told them that we had to remain below until the hurricane had passed. That this might mean an indefinite number of hours underwater, and the conservation of our limited air supply was now the difference between living or dying. This meant making no unnecessary movements at all. I kept some of the bad news to myself. I didn't tell them that the cold water would steadily drain the heat from our bodies, or that nitrogen narcosis might easily get us if we stayed down long enough. When I got through, we settled down and waited. Hours passed, and the air in our first set of tanks was used up. Switching from an empty air tank to a full one is a tricky piece of business, unless you've had experience at it. With the compressed air gone, the tanks became buoyant. I made sure that they didn't float away. I had a plan to use in case of extreme emergency. calculated the maximum time our air would last. The odds were heavily against us. I measured the temperature of the water. It was 55 degrees. Much too cold for us to last very long. To keep us warm, I distributed our last capsules of food concentrate. For all we knew, it was our last meal. The checkerboard had been originally built for use in our series of tests. Now, for a while, it helped keep up our morale. After sitting still for so long underwater, the cold began to get us. Tom started to shake uncontrollably. This was no longer a carefully controlled experiment. If Tom's body lost too much heat, he'd lose consciousness soon, which underwater means only one thing: certain death. We tried to massage him. Doc Adams took his temperature. Another new page in underwater medicine. Then he checked his pulse. His temperature was subnormal. To keep him alive, we'd have to increase his body heat. I broke out a flare. The heat from the burning magnesium gave him some relief. I sent up a marker buoy to help anyone who might be looking for us. The storm tore the marker buoy apart. There was nothing left for us now but to wait on in our prison and try to fight off the rising panic that could destroy us. Our air supply was dangerously low, and we were freezing as the water relentlessly sucked the heat from our bodies. I was praying that none of us would crack under the strain. Suddenly, Pete turned violent and tried to surface. We had to use up our precious air to subdue him and bring him down. Doc Adams went for his medical kit. He gave him a tranquilizing shot, but it didn't take effect immediately. Probably the first underwater injection. Sharks, the vultures of the deep, gathered as if sensing our doom. I used our last flare to startle the sharks into a temporary retreat, but I knew that they'd be back. Minutes were all that were left to us. Our air was almost finished. I calculated that we had just enough to get to the surface. If the storm was raging, we'd be killed instantly. But if we didn't go up now, we'd slowly suffocate. We had to take the chance. And luckily, we had some materials for a life raft. The empty tanks that I'd saved might now save our lives. Agonizing work to build a raft in a state of shock. But we finally made it, and we moved up toward whatever was waiting for us on the surface. By the time we reached the surface, the waves had subsided, but we were still cold, and our strength was waning fast. We heard the sound of an engine. The Coast Guard hadn't forgotten us. A helicopter was approaching. It calculated our position and moved in without delay. When the Coast Guard officer threw us a tow line, my companions were saved to be the first crew of a spacecraft. I'd like to make a sizable bet that they'll never have a tougher test than the one that we had in the clear tropical waters off the southern tip of Florida.
Hi there. I'm Lloyd Bridges. Skin diving is certainly a lot of fun, and it's full of adventure. See some more of it again next week, huh? When there'll be another excursion into that fabulous underwater world of Sea Hunt.
beautiful underwater growth. It forms underwater gardens, dense jungles, but sometimes graveyards. To swim through a kelp forest, a diver needs a good knife and plenty of experience, or he may end up like Dan Morgan. Dan Morgan and his wife, Ruth, loved diving, and diving together. They had new equipment, new spears, and hunting for bass seemed like great fun. The water was clear, the visibility good, but the fun didn't last long. Two miles away, I was busy checking out Dr. Barr, a professor of marine biology, and two of his postgraduate students in skin diving, before embarking on an underwater expedition. Our schedule for today included underwater communication, by hand signals, by Morse code, and emergency action. Although hand signals have not been standardized yet, I teach my students a number of easily understood signs which are finding acceptance among many divers. This one means swim to the right. This one means halt. One of the most important distress signals underwater is the one to indicate trouble with air supply. Dr. Barr immediately understood my signal and in 40 feet of water offered to share his air with me. Sound carries well underwater, and the metal air tank of the scuba diver makes an excellent instrument for sending Morse code. Although my students had passed their Morse code test in a dry classroom, it was essential to test their ability to send and receive tapped communications under operational conditions. The vital importance of underwater communication was to be illustrated for my students that day, because within an hour, the life of a scuba diver would be saved or lost, depending on his ability to send a call for help under the surface of the sea. It was 4:45 when we surfaced, just in time to receive an urgent call from the Coast Guard asking me to render assistance to a lady in distress. Within minutes, we had rounded Crag Point and had the Morgan boat in sight.
He was dragged under. We were swimming and
Who was dragged under?
my husband. We were spearfishing and I came to
Just
the
try to
surface
answer
and he
my
was...
questions, huh? Was he wearing scuba?
Yes,
How many tanks?
one. But Mr. Nelson...
When he went in, did he have a full tank of air?
Yes.
How long was he in before he was dragged under?
Well, just a few minutes, maybe 3, maybe 4 minutes.
How long has it been since he disappeared?
About 15 minutes. And he hasn't come up yet.
There's some binoculars in my locker. Go get them and start looking. I'll search for anything on the surface, especially bubbles.
Well, I should have swam down to him. I should have tried to untangle him from the line. I should have tried to get the thing out of the way.
Stop it. I'm sorry. And if you want to help us find your husband, you better keep your head. Tell me, what happened?
We were just a few feet below the surface of the water. Right over there. Suddenly, a bass swam by. It was huge. Dan fired his spear gun. It struck. It started to go in that direction.
To the point, huh?
But first I went to the surface and I swam up. And I saw the fish. And then I saw Dan and he was all tangled up in the line. He tried to free himself with his knife, but he lost it. Then the fish pulled him down under and took him over towards the point.
You see anything?
Nothing yet, Mike.
Nothing, Mike.
Nothing here, Mike.
You know how to handle a twin outboard, Dr. Barr?
Got one at home just like it.
All right, good. Now, from what Mrs. Morgan tells me, her husband disappeared somewhere between here and the point. Now, you take the outboard and parallel my course about 25 yards to that side, okay?
Right.
You go with him, Ains.
Right, Mike.
And use those glasses.
But if Dan hasn't come up yet, is there still hope?
He has a good 30 minutes of airlift. We'll find him in time. Now, let me try those glasses. You take the wheel, will you? Keep a sharp watch for equipment they might have jettisoned.
Hey, Mike, over there.
How far?
About 100 yards. There's a lot of bubbles coming to the surface.
Yeah. Straight ahead, toward the point.
Within 3 minutes, our boats had reached the bubbles which were probably coming up from Dan Morgan's air tanks. We were ready to dive.
Let's go, huh?
We had no trouble following the stream of bubbles downward, but 20 feet below, we were stopped short. The bubbles had disappeared. But that wasn't too alarming. An underwater current might easily have swept the bubbles out of their original path. I swam down with a marker buoy and line to mark our position. I motioned to my partners to remain below and search while I went up for more equipment.
Did you find him?
No, not yet. Doctor, throw over the reel and line. We're gonna have to do some looking.
But the bubbles, didn't you follow them?
Currents do funny things sometimes. The bubbles just disappeared.
If you need help, you yank on the marker cord, right, Mike?
You're a good student, Doctor.
I came down with a reel and a line, because an underwater search has to be systematic. You must leave no inch of the bottom uncovered and must not cover any part of the ground twice. One sure method is the circular search, swimming around the reel at different distances from the center. Not air bubbles from Morgan's tank, but natural gas, escaping from a fissure in the ocean floor. The gas well discovery meant nothing. Uppermost in our minds was what this disastrous news would mean to Ruth Morgan. It was up to me to break the bad news to Ruth Morgan while my students brought up the reel. I knew in my heart that we had very little hope. Time was against us. The search pattern had to be carefully laid out.
No. But the bubbles, didn't you follow them?
It was from a natural gas well.
Oh, then he's lost. We'll never find him.
Hold on now. There's still time. You still got air. Can't be far away.
Did you find him?
No!
I found something. See the initials on it.
DM. What's your husband's first name?
Dan, it's his. I know it.
Where'd you find it?
I marked it with a buoy.
Hey, Mike. Found the reel. Good. Hey, Wilson. You take the wheel again, huh?
Right, Mike.
Follow Barr.
Right.
Do you see the marker that Barr left?
Yeah.
What's the matter? Kelp.
It's bull kelp.
He's been dragged into an underwater forest of bull kelp.
Yeah, this is something that I haven't checked you out on. Swimming in kelp is going to be plenty dangerous. If you get panicky and forget what I've taught you, you're going to be in trouble. All right. Can't talk you out of it. Come on. Let's get going. Take out your knives. We're swimming with our hands.
Mr. Nelson, I'm going with you.
It's too dangerous.
But my husband's down there. I've got to help. Don't you understand?
All right, you're swimming a search path right next to me. And swim with your knife in your hand, huh?
Well, but
In case you get tangled with kelp.
We marked the search area, getting ready to dive. Less than 50 yards away from us, there was a rising stream of air bubbles. These bubbles rose from Dan Morgan's air tank. They never reached the surface. They were caught by the imprisoning kelp leaves. The entangling fish line which had dragged him into the trap held him a prisoner. Without his knife, which he had lost when he speared the fish, he couldn't cut himself loose. The search began, first near the markers and at prearranged levels. We swam down through clear water just outside the edge of the kelp. Next to the danger of entanglement in kelp is the danger of losing your sense of direction. Against this, of course, the diver's best defense is his compass. Each of my students wore one, and it would swim a straight search path through the kelp on a course of 95 degrees. Mrs. Morgan, having no compass, had to guide herself by watching me. The problem now was to swim a straight course. anxiety to locate Morgan, I didn't notice that I had lost Mrs. Morgan. A tapping sound. Was the missing man tapping out a distress signal? But from where? Underwater sound seems to come from all directions. But the tapping noise didn't come from the imprisoned man. He also heard it and tried to see from where it was coming. Although he wasn't more than 20 yards from me, he couldn't see me, and I couldn't see him. A sudden surge of kelp dragged the air hose from her mouth, but I knew that I could reach her in a few seconds. The trapped man listened for the tapping to start again and hoped that it signaled the approach of some rescuer. But the tapping had ceased, and no one came. I could see that she had swallowed some water and began to guide her back out of the kelp. I started a service with her while my students continued the search. Time was growing short. Less and less light was penetrating the underwater jungle, and Dan Morgan's air supply must have been at the very end. When Dan Morgan had heard the tapping noise, his hope had revived. If anyone were within earshot, they could hear his tapping too. His hand strained toward a stone which was just beyond his reach. Because of the failing light, my students had decided to turn back without completing a search of their paths. They too started for the surface.
How do you feel? Are you all right? Do you feel better?
Yes. I'm going back down.
We almost lost you once. Let's not try it again.
Mike!
Did you find anything?
No! The kelp gets thicker the further in you get. We've got to find flares or something.
Come aboard, all of you.
Oh, you're not calling off the search, are you?
For them, yes.
Oh, but Mr. Nelson, you can't
It's getting dark.
Well, but they're all willing.
They're my students. Their lives are my responsibility.
You just can't leave him out there.
Doctor, get my portable light for me, huh?
Right, Doctor.
There's still time for one more try.
I'm going with you.
No.
I'm going.
Hold it.
I'm coming. Please, Blindie.
Time, 5:30. It would soon be totally dark, and Morgan would be out of air. again the sound of tapping. Had Ruth followed me? The tapping sound seemed to come from all directions. Suddenly, I saw something in the distance. The tapping seemed louder. Once I had located Dan Morgan, it took me only seconds to free him and take him to the surface.
Dan! Darling!
It's all right, honey. It's all right. Let's show off, huh? Thanks. Hi there. I'm Lloyd Bridges. Skin diving is certainly a lot of fun, and it's full of adventure. See some more of it again next week, huh? When there'll be another excursion into that fabulous underwater world of Sea Hunt.
On March 27th, Hurricane Teresa struck along a front 700 miles wide. One of the victims was a United States Air Force bomber carrying a nuclear bomb. one engine damaged, ravaged by the hurricane, its commander ordered everything non-essential tossed overboard. The last thing to be jettisoned was the nuclear bomb. It was unarmed, and the commander believed that he was safe in dropping it. He was wrong. The bomb was somewhere on the bottom, in a known sector of ocean. The Air Force didn't know exactly where, or if it had been damaged. They did know that corrosion, the electrolytic action of seawater, would start immediately. That in some parts of the sea, this action is much stronger than in others. And if the alloy casing were eaten through, the two fissionable components could unite, and the bomb explode. The bomb had to be recovered fast, but it had fallen in the coastal area of another nation. No official expedition could be sent without causing panic. That's why I was called in to head an emergency mission. A week later, I was well into the search. My two colleagues were ex-frogmen like myself. I was diving with Paul Redman. We were working the area near a cave. We were operating in deep water, and the bottom was rocky. But the big problem was time. We had to find that nuclear bomb before the corrosion got too far. When we reached the cave, I motioned to Paul to go around. The pressure must have been affecting him because he ignored my order and the rules of diving procedure too, and went in alone. Suddenly, I realized what he had done and rushed into the cave. But by the time I reached him, he had become wedged into one of the narrow passageways. When we reached the surface, Paul was unconscious. I knew that he must have swallowed a lot of water. We needed Paul, but he'd be in no condition to dive for maybe 48 hours. I wasn't too sure whether we still had 48 hours.
How do you feel?
Like a dish rag. Put him over here.
Right. Get this one out of the way.
Sorry. My fault, Mike.
Get a blanket.
Pretty stupid thing I did down there, wasn't it?
So you won't do it next time.
Next time. Right now, I'm not looking forward to any next time.
When we'd arrived 4 days ago, I'd put a piece of metal into the water to test for corrosion.
Looks like a piece of Swiss cheese.
And that's after only 4 days down the water. Look at that. We had less time than we thought.
Yeah, that whole Navy task force out there waiting on us. Think they could send us any divers?
There's not a chance. Our orders are to keep radio silent. Looks like it's up to just the two of us.
Hey, look.
Oh, it's just a fishing boat. Lots of them around here.
Yeah, but that's the same one that's been following us for 3 days.
You think those are the same divers? Why else would they be hunting here? These are my fishing grounds. I'm gonna let them characters move in. Full ahead.
I had no idea what these fishermen were after, but I was certain that we couldn't afford to be delayed by anything.
Hi, I'm Mike Nelson. Listen, you skin divers. You jokers in them rubber bunny suits are ruining my fishing. Get out. We're running a survey. We'll be finished soon. You're finished as of right now. I don't want you characters fouling up my fishing grounds.
Listen, according to our charts, these are open waters, see?
I've been fishing these waters for 8 years. I don't care what your charts say. I say get out. We're not after you, Tuna. Yeah? What about pearls?
Pearls? Here?
Yeah, here. I picked one up here about 5 months back, but some joker in one of them bunny suits stole my marker. Any more pearls come out of these waters belong to me, Jack Rogan. We're running an underwater photographic survey. Now, that's all. Oh, yeah? That's what you say. I don't believe you. Get off my deck, Rogan. Okay. How will you get off my boat? Oh, you up, gone. Duh! Well, you wanted this water, Rogan. You got it. Hey, Dutch, give me a hand. All right. Next time I won't be so easy on you. Now get out of here. Let's get underway. I said get underway! Nice going, Paul boy. You go down below. Take it easy, huh?
Right, okay. Nice little exhibition, Skipper.
What else can I do? Tell him the truth? Let him in on our secret? Come on, we've wasted a lot of time.
Right. I get the idea. Looks like double duty from here on, huh?
I didn't feel any more like diving than Stan did. We'd already put in a day's work. But that bomb was somewhere in the area. And with every tick of my watch, it was getting closer to an explosion. The Navy scientists had warned me that the bomb's casing could be completely eaten through by electrolytic action. And our testing sample had shown us that it was happening even faster than they'd estimated. Stan spotted something. It was the wreck of a barge. The data that we had been given indicated 3 of them had gone down only the year before. It made me shudder to see how corroded the metal was. It looked as if it had been there for 10 years or more. Another grim confirmation of the strong electrolytic action in this part of the ocean. We were searching systematically by spiraling outward from a fixed point. Eventually, we'd find it by that method. But when? Then we saw something that looked like the bomb. For a moment, I thought it was. But it was only a few oil drums, probably off a freighter. The next day, luck was with us. There it was, the bomb. But the bubbles rising from it told me immediately that we didn't have a minute to waste. We examined it and found it in even worse condition than we had feared. Besides, it was wedged in the rock so tightly that I didn't know how we could move it. I sent up a marker buoy.
That's it. They found that pearl then. You sure, Skipper? You think they're just playing with balloons? Well, I'm not fooling around either. They just bought themselves a peck of trouble. Let's go.
With all our strength, we couldn't budge the bomb. I signaled to return to the boat. All of a sudden, I looked up. We were being surrounded by something that looked like a giant shadow. It wasn't a sea monster, but it was trouble. I knew it must be Rogan. He had used his trawling net and had scooped us up like a pair of oversized tuna fish.
You, over here, quick. Well, did you find those oysters down there? You know what I'm talking about, the pearls.
I told you before we weren't diving for pearls.
Let him go ahead. Let him play Captain Kidd if he wants to.
You got nothing to say about it. All right, you two. Come on, out of them rigs. Come on! Come on, snap it up, Dutch.
You don't really need this thing, do you?
I guess not. We won't be down there that long.
How do you put this stuff on? I never worked with this kind of rig before.
Yo, get my hand.
You don't like him, huh? You want to get rid of him. Is that why you send them down?
Shut up, Nelson.
Scuba diving takes time to learn, you know. But what's more important, those tanks are half empty.
Nelson, I told you before, I don't believe a word you say. I was down on my first diving rig before you were old enough to wrestle a herring, and a hard hat, too. And I worked with these things a couple of times. Nothing to it. All you do is blow in here, and then you breathe in. What's the matter with this thing?
There's nothing wrong with that thing. You gotta turn the valve on before you can get your air.
So I forgot. Turn the valve right on top.
There's another thing you better not forget. Don't hold your breath when you come up, or you'll explode your lungs.
Skipper, maybe we better not try. We don't know too much about...
I'm going down. You're my first mate. Where I go, you go.
I'm not looking forward to taking those tanks off your dead body.
Grow up, Dutch. He's just trying to get you good. Relax. You never stop trying, do you, Nelson? Come on. All right, Chonsky. Keep an eye on him. We'll be up in a minute with the pearls.
Gotcha, Skipper.
Those stupid fools. We got half the United States Navy out there. We can't do a thing about it.
Well, we could send up a flare. Hey, Mike, what happens if friend Rogan spots that bomb? There goes another top secret.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me too much. I don't think you'd be able to tell the difference between that and any other piece of wreckage. But it's that bomb casing.
Pretty corroded, huh?
I had a long, close look at it. It's plenty corroded.
And if that casing goes...
We'll have a very noisy funeral.
Knock it off, you guys. Don't try anything with me. Hey, how much air those gizmos carry?
Just about used up by now. You're probably in trouble. Better let me go down and take a quick look, huh?
Skipper says no. It's no.
Hey, Chonsky, the skipper's in trouble. All right, come on. Call it forward, out of trouble. Yeah, cover. What happened? A big clam. I never saw nothing like it. A real monster. It's got the skipper.
Stan, give me that underwater flare.
You better hurry up. Take off your fin, will you? We should have never gone down. Hurry up with that flare!
I got it. Here you are.
Rogan was in trouble, all right. His arm was trapped in a giant clam. His air was almost gone, and he would soon have drowned. I tried to pull the shell apart, but the grip was like a steel vise. I didn't want to use the flare if I didn't have to, for fear I'd burn Rogan as well as the clam. I hacked at the muscle with my knife, but I didn't even dent it. I saw that I'd have to use the flare. It was the only chance. I lit it and shoved it into the clam. The muscle relaxed, and Rogan pulled his arm free. I helped him up to the surface.
I don't get it.
You don't get what?
We hijack your boat, push you around, and you saved my life. What kind of a guy are you?
I'll tell you what kind of a guy I am. Guy who needs your help. How about it?
You'll need my help. You got it.
I'll tell you what I need.
Rogan cooperated just fine. He was a good man on a tough job. We had everything rigged inside of an hour. But Rogan and his men had no idea that their trawler was rigged to the world's most dangerous object. I stayed underwater to help with a crowbar.
Whatever sounder isn't given, we're liable to capsize.
Well, then we capsize. Hit that throttle.
But we're liable to sink your ship.
I said hit that throttle, you wet-nosed ragback, before I got you.
But even Rogan's heavy winch didn't seem to move the bomb. He gave it everything that his equipment could stand. And finally, it broke loose.
All right, got it.
What for?
We play it just like we're told. We break it loose and then wait. Is that right?
Right. And thanks.
Rogan never did see the bomb. We were ready now to keep our date with the United States Navy.
Cast off! Right.
Thanks again, Rogan. Just one thing more, Nelson. When you get into port tomorrow, will you tell me what this is all about?
I'd like to, but, well...
I never would be able to tell Rogan, even though he had helped to stop a terrible disaster. We were on our way to the Navy Bomb Disposal Squadron. Without causing diplomatic difficulties or panic, our three-man unit had accomplished everything that a task force could have done. Our mission was completed.
I'll be back next week at the same time with another sea hunt story. Plan to be with us again, huh?